Absolutely.
Alrighty, guys. I would like to welcome Brian Jones here. He is an author, a gym guy, and he wants to run for Congress. So let's
do.
welcome him.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Absolutely.
Can I do one of these and
yeah.
show off the
Show off
Brian
the
Jones
shirt.
for Congress shirt? Yeah, there we go.
Love it. You got to get an arm flex, kind of like Arnold vibe there.
You know what? Not right now. I don't have a pump. It's early morning. I got no salt, no water, no carbs in me. I'll post a gym picture later.
No gym pictures.
No, you have to blend that fine line of being like, hey, I'm a fit guy, I'm running for Congress, but you can't also be like the Arnold of the world and be like flexing in every picture, because then people just are like, why would I vote for a meathead?
Yeah, like Arnold did it once, and everyone's like, all right. Like,
yeah, when you're Mr. Olympia, you kind of have the respect of everybody, but if you're just a guy who's like, oh, I've won a couple local shows and I like to compete, and you have to walk that fine line.
Yeah. I mean, Arnold's life, as much as people like whatever don't like him anymore, it's like fascinating, all the things like.
Did you watch the Netflix documentary on
Yeah.
him? Yeah, it was fantastic. And yeah, I know he kind of fell off a little bit in 2020 with the whole "screw your freedoms" comment.
Yeah.
That
really roasted him.
yeah, that wasn't the best thing to come out and say. But it sucks because it just shows that that's politics. Because you can have this great life and all these accomplishments, and then you come out and you say one thing, and it's kind of over. But
Yeah.
he's still a legend in our community.
Oh, and I think plenty of people still respect him
Yeah.
tenfold, you know?
Yeah.
So what got you into fitness? Like, how did you?
It's funny. I think fitness has always just been in my life. I don't know how to explain it, but my parents have a picture of me, and I'm like 4 years old, and I'm on the beach with my sister, and I'm like flexing, like a front double bicep. And I always ask my parents, I'm like, did you like antagonize me to flex? They go, no, you just always like to flex your muscles. We don't.
Really?
Yeah.
So same thing. Brody and I are every baby picture. We're like,
Yeah, exactly.
but my dad was real big into bodybuilding, and like he wasn't a bodybuilder himself, but he was really into like the fitness industry.
Yeah.
Hey Sid, can you make sure the front door is locked? Thank you. We have clients that go in the studio that think they need to come in here first too.
It's all good.
Yeah. So no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So like right from the start, you were just.
I was also in middle school, and I wanted to be like big and strong. I don't know what it was, but I was like bench pressing my bed. I was like laying on the floor in my bedroom, like bench pressing my bed. And so in middle school, my parents got us like a Bowflex.
Okay.
And I would use it all the time. And then by the time I got into high school, for like, baseball and football, we were always in the weight room. Like our coaches had us in the weight room at 5:30 in the morning before we'd even go to school. And then after school, we would either lift again or run or do some sort of training. And so I really had a good foundation built in my high school years of like working with a strength coach, learning how to like lift, not hurt yourself, learning how to do your heavy compound movements and build the foundation of your physique. When I got to college, I knew that I wanted to study engineering. And you kind of go to different college campuses and you'll notice that a lot of people say, hey, look, man, like there's not a lot of engineers on our sports teams. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I also had to look at it as like, I'm not going to be a pro baseball player. So I'm just going to focus on my education in my life, and I'm not going to let it distract me.
So you like kind of transitioned away a little bit come college, you'd say?
Well, just transitioned away from like the more football, baseball kind of workouts where someone was telling you what to do.
Okay.
I still love the gym, but at that point I had the freedom to lift how I wanted to lift. And that's where I was like, okay, now like when I want to bench and I want to do back and I want to do legs, I can lift the way I want to. And that's when I really started to like hit my stride and get into bodybuilding. And that's when I really started learning and teaching myself about nutrition, hypertrophy, training programs, like the best optimal things to do things. Because I think in my mind as an engineer, I'm always trying to be efficient. I'm always trying to optimize things, and I'm very like scientific in my rigor.
So what kills me is like you said you like played like high school football. The high school football training is like you said, 5:30 a.m. like crazy workout, and then after school workout like.
Yeah, well, I played baseball in high school, so like we would train with like the football team. But I think once I got to, I played football growing up all through middle school, and then once I got to high school, it was fall ball. So we were in there for fall baseball, but we were still training with the football team. So we were still like doing those workouts. And then in the spring, it was baseball workouts. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the high school football training is very optimal. It's more like a boot camp.
It was, but it was a lot of teaching you the technical foundations of like how to deadlift, how to clean, how to jerk, how to squat, how to bench. And then, so I had that base built in high school. And then when I got to college, I was like, well, okay, I know the techniques. I know how to like not hurt myself and, do anything like that. So okay, now I want to look like this. So how do I get to that level? So then I was like,
Got more into like aesthetics and like
yeah, and so then
more
I was
bodybuilding.
I was buying the magazines and I was reading about like, okay, how do I look like this guy? Okay, well this guy's eating eggs and oatmeal and chicken and rice. Okay, like let me tailor my diet towards that and let me go towards a more hypertrophy focused workout. And I did all that throughout my, I guess, college career, early 20s, and then eventually I got the bug to compete.
Now, did you ever personal train or have a trainer or do anything in that sort?
I did when I competed, yeah. So when I moved to Melbourne for the first time in 2016, I had a goal in mind, and I said, you know what, the time is now. I want to compete. And I had buddies in high school and college that were back home in Virginia competing. And these are friends of mine, and I'm like, okay, like if you guys are winning local shows, looking like you do, maybe a little arrogant, but I was like, I can probably win some local shows too. And so I moved here, and day one, I went to LA Fitness over there, and I happened to meet one of the head trainers, and I said, hey, I want to compete. I'm only supposed to live in Melbourne for 6 months. I want to stay longer, but I want to compete in the next 6 months. Like, what can we do? And so he was like, let's find a local show, and he started me on a 12-week program, and that is what led to the 2016 Beach Bodies Classic show that I won in 2016.
Awesome. Did you ever go past local shows? Did you ever do any national or?
No? I don't really have a desire. Look, I'm a lifetime natural guy, and we did a warm-up show in Miami, and I tell you what, man, the guys down there are a different breed. And it was my warm-up show for the Beach Bodies Classic, and I came in, I don't know, like I think third in classic physique and maybe fourth in bodybuilding. Don't quote me on that, but it was second or third and fourth, and no, the guys on those shows, they're on some stuff, and it's just a world of difference.
My final show I did at 19, so I competed 5 times through my teen years, which was way too much. I wish someone would have told me not to do that, which I think someone did tell me not to do that, but I was a teenager. So I did all natural shows, and I remained natural through all of them, but the final one was the Pittsburgh Pro. It was untested. I got there, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to be in this industry anymore. It's just when you there's a middle tier of bodybuilding. So you have your local shows, which is pretty chill, pretty cool. And then when you get to that not quite, national level show, I guess you'd say.
The qualifiers, yeah.
You have these bodybuilding junkies that don't quite have the genetics, don't quite have it, but they are willing to do whatever it takes to get it, which cool, great, but it's so unhealthy. And chances are they're never going to get it because they just don't have it.
Yeah. Well, no, you're absolutely right. And genetics plays a huge, huge role in bodybuilding.
And it's the same guys doing the same shows, trying to get that pro card. And the sad thing is, it's there's a big chunk of bodybuilding that is genetics. Your fullness, your roundness, you have a great stature, especially being a natural guy. That's crazy. And yeah, dude, I saw that and I was like, I don't want to be part of this. I was it just doesn't feel good.
Well, and my thing too was when I started competing, I was in my mid to late 20s. And so I knew at that point, bodybuilding was never going to pay the bills for me. I was never going to walk away from my great, engineering career to pursue that. So it was always just a fun hobby. Like I said, I've had this fitness bug in me my entire life.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just if my friends are all doing this, I just want to see what I can actually look like if I go all out for, 12 weeks, really dial down. I want to see how peeled I can get, how big I can get. I just want to be able to say I did it.
I feel that's people that have been in fitness. A lot of people do like to do that. Just see what it is one time.
And don't get me wrong. I would absolutely love to still compete once a year because I would love to be able to push myself to that limit. The problem that you run in is it's very hard to balance with a job and a career that you really care about. And I noticed for myself back when I was competing, something has to fall through the cracks. And so when you're waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, to go do your cardio, to then shower, to go to work all day,
and eat your meal every
eat all your
2
meals.
hours.
And when you're in a a professional job like I would be in work meetings and I was like, all right guys, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to open this container of chicken and broccoli. I'm going to sit here and eat this while we're all talking about technical engineering minded things. And some people are like, "You're really just gonna eat broccoli right next to me?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm sorry."
It's weird, because I was in college my last couple shows, and I would eat during class and stuff.
Yeah.
And from an outsider non-fitness standpoint, people do. It's why are you eating right now? And
yeah.
It's
Well, and my coworkers all knew that if you scheduled a meeting with me at like 11:30, which was first lunch, 1:30 second lunch, or like 3:30 to 4, which was like my pre-workout meal, like it was like, yeah, Brian Jones is going to be sitting there eating one of his meals. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, but this is what I have to do. But then also when you get to a point where you're so depleted, like the last 4 to 6 weeks out from a show, your brain is just in such a state of fog for me that I started realizing it was taking away from my work performance. And as someone who, again, I said I'm never going to let bodybuilding pay my bills. I'm like, I can't sacrifice my reputation and my career.
Were you getting like the real big swings of energy? Like you'd have a meal and you're like good, and then you'd like taper off, and then you're like have a meal and then taper off.
And it was like riding that roller coaster where I'd come to work in the morning after the gym. I would take some caffeine, have I don't really drink coffee, but I would do some sort of other caffeine source.
Energy drinks.
Yeah. Have a meal and I'd be great. I'd be wired from like 8:30 to 11. And then I would crash and be like, okay, oh my God, I'm starving. No one talked to me until I can get my meal. My stomach's rumbling. I'm like miserable. Then I'd eat, be okay for a half hour, but I was eating small meals. So I'd feel good from like 11:30 to 12, and then be like, all right, got to wait till 1:30, 2 o'clock rolls around, have my next meal. And then crash, eat, and then pop caffeine, go to the gym. And so it was just being up and down. I don't want to feel like that. And it's one thing if that's going to pay your bills and that's going to be what is your livelihood. But if it's not, it's not worth it for me to sacrifice everything I've done to build up my career to pursue a hobby for a $5 trophy.
Yeah. Now, being a lifetime natural, what's your like thought on training? Like, do you think heavy, low rep, or you think lighter weight, high rep?
So I actually fall somewhere in the middle, and I want to caveat this because I know how social media it is, and no matter what I say, someone's going to attack it and go.
Doesn't matter. Let them attack it. More comments means more views.
Well, I think this is the political side of me, where whenever you say anything politically, people attack it. But I will say for this, so I have never really built my physique on super heavy reps, and the reason being is I just don't have the genetics and the joints for it. I know that when I start going too heavy, my knees start hurting, my elbows start hurting. I actually tore both of my elbow tendons in Afghanistan doing a 1,000-pound club. I was trying to get your squat, your bench, and your deadlift to get 1,000 pounds. I was benching like 375, like not even a ton of weight.
That's a lot of weight.
All right, so then I need to brag then because I think I hit 385 or 395, but they touched the bar like a little bit, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
So I feel the same way with the joint thing. Like I benched 300 of like a couple years ago. And it was like, just my body just didn't love it. And then I hit 475 on deadlifts, and I was sore for like a month. I was like, ouch, like that hurt.
I've done that too.
And I was just like, I don't know if I'm meant to do this.
Yeah. And so just from a young age, I've just realized that my body doesn't respond to it. And for me, I want to be strong, but I don't need to be strong. And so I try to find this middle ground where I fully believe in starting off my workouts with heavy compound sets.
So you think like 8 to 10 reps, you'd say?
Yeah. And I work up to it. So this is what I say. I don't want anyone to attack it because they're going to be like, oh, he didn't even say to warm up. That's so dangerous. No, like obviously do your warm-ups, whatever you need to do. But then I like to start off with heavy compound movements. And again, this is just Brian Jones, the natural 35-year-old guy that's talking. I'm not saying this is what's optimal for everybody. But the way I like to approach it is heavy compound movements, good range of motion. I warm up to it. So like, let's say today is chest and biceps for me. So I'm going to start off with dumbbell bench, and I'll probably go like light 50s, 60s, whatever. And then like, I will work my way up to like 80, 90. I know that's not super heavy, but I will go like 15, 12, 10, 8. And then usually I'll like, if I feel good at 8, I'll do like 3 or 4 sets at 8.
Okay.
I'll do a lot of volume. And then as my workout goes on, I still always believe in like full stretch, full contraction. But as the workout goes on and as I fatigue, I lighten the load and I really focus on like just the movement of it. So I'll go from, let's say, dumbbell bench, and then I'll go get like a barbell. I'll go do like incline. And then from there, I'll go progressively lighter to a point where I'll eventually end on like flies. And I'm going lighter of like 15 to 20, where like the last 5, it's just burning and I'm really just holding it. And then when I'm done, I like to do like the FST7 style, where I finish my set and I just sit there and I just squeeze and I force as much blood and glycogen as I can into my muscle. Then I relax, I do some stretching in between, and then I move on to the next exercise. And I literally treat every single muscle group like that.
So we do the same thing. Like if something's working that day, like, I don't know, say flies are feeling good.
Yeah.
I'll do 8 sets of flies. I don't care.
Yeah.
Feels great.
Well, and this is why I said, like, someone's going to attack it, because I say I do that, and that is true for 80 to 90% of the time. There are plenty of days when, like I walk in the gym at 5 o'clock and it's just a madhouse.
Yeah.
And I can't get a bench. I can't get a squat rack. So on those days, I will absolutely go in reverse and I will start light and I'll go sets of like 20 to 25 and I'll just really get a really good pump and I'll really just get the blood going. And then I'll work up to heavy sets. And it's not that I prefer to do it that way. It's that sometimes when you go to a commercial gym, you have to be able to make adjustments.
Oh, 110, especially if you're going at those times.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just gonna walk in and go, "Oh man, I can't get my workout done today. I guess I'll just like hop on the some other machine and I'll just go home." So I will absolutely make adjustments, but I will say that 90% of the time, that is my philosophy, and it's not so much that I try to work up to a strength amount. It's that I try to walk away with a really, really good pump, and I try to really push my strength in the beginning. And then as I fatigue, I try to force as much blood into it as I can. Just really get a good workout, good pump. And that's like what I chase. Do you remember like the Chris Jones pump chasers on YouTube?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the motto.
Okay.
It's chase the pump, that's the best feeling.
Nice. So you went through school playing sports, college fitness into bodybuilding in your 20s. So did the idea to write the book or run for Congress or like how did that roll out? Did you write the book and then you're like, man, I kind of like this stuff?
Yeah, so I wrote the book in late 2021, early 2022. And this was, shortly after Biden took office. And I just looked at all of the ugliness in politics. And keep in mind, I grew up in Northern Virginia, so I grew up right outside of D.C.
Okay.
So I was always very keenly aware of what was going on in D.C. because even the local news, a lot of people around there, it's a very political kind of area, right? So I was always kind of gravitated towards it. And growing up, for whatever reason, it's like I can't explain it just the same way I always liked fitness. I can't explain it, but even growing up, I said, I kind of want to do that one day. That looks fun. I feel like those people actually have the opportunity to help people.
And I told you earlier, like I've always been interested in politics, but like I never had the balls to like pursue it. Even like local level, like when I go down to the city to like pay stuff or whatever,
you know what?
I'm like, it'd be cool to like get involved and like understand like my whole thing is like I want to understand like the back conversation, like I told you the food truck thing, like who are they harming? Okay, then like why are we kicking them out of Crunch? Like people love them there.
I know that's so terrible. They're hurting people's livelihood, and there's no victim there, and that's the most disgusting part. But you hit on a really great point that I want to talk about is the fact that you were like, maybe I don't feel like I know enough to get involved, and that's how I felt in my early 20s, where in college, I'm going to date myself, but this was back when like the Daily Show with Jon Stewart was on a lot, and it was on at like 11:30. So like in college, I'd be like in my dorm studying that kind of night, that time of night, and I would watch that a lot. And it was a way for me to really get outside of my bubble because in college, I felt like I only really cared about what was going on in my couple square miles of campus. And we're so close to DC, I would watch that show and I'd be like, okay, yeah, they're kind of making fun of both sides. Okay, like what's going on? But I never really felt confident enough to voice my opinion on any political topic because it's so divisive out there and people will just relentlessly attack you. And if you don't really know your stuff, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
And so being an engineer like me, I'm like, well, why are politics so like ugly? I don't get it. If we have a problem and we can understand what the problem is, why can't we all agree on what the solution is? And the solution may not be absolute. And it's something I hit on in my book is that most solutions have trade-offs. And I don't ever want to be the guy that just pounds the table and say, vote for me because I believe this. I believe in education and bringing people onto our side. And the only way you do that is to say, hey, I have this idea. We need to go do this. And the reason I think that is because of this. Now, if you don't agree with my solutions, that's one thing. We can talk about it because I fully understand that nothing happens in a vacuum. There's trade-offs. And you see a lot of the time what the government does.
Perfect. Like
right. And a lot of times what the government does is they fix one problem and they create two more because they have bad policies and they don't actually think through the downstream consequences. So getting back to this whole story, it was 2021, 2022, and I was like, you know what? I have all these ideas, and I just want to get them down. And I said, I kind of want to write a book. I don't know why I felt that way. I just did. And so I started writing the book. I tried to get it published through a couple different places, and I was working with a publisher, and they went through like I want to say it was like an 8 or 10 week review of the book. And they finally got back to me, and they were like, well, we want you to advocate for things that I was not willing to talk about because they don't really have engineering-minded solutions.
So wait, the publisher came back and was like, no, you need to talk more about this?
Yeah, so
they had their own political view they wanted to put in?
Yes. So
interesting.
In the book, you'll notice if you happen to want to read it up front, I say, look, I'm not going to talk about societal or cultural things because they're very subjective in nature. And it's very hard to stand there and say, well, I believe this just because it's my opinion and it's a moral thing. That's the culture war. There are thousands of people fighting that battle. And if I write about that, it's nothing more than my opinion. So everything in here is a quantifiable, metrically derived solution where we can say, hey, like there's a problem and here's the way we can solve it. And I advocate for what I believe in, but I also say if you don't want to solve it this way, you can do it this way. Just be mindful that you
So you almost like wrote it and then like gave options almost.
Exactly. And I do advocate in very specific situations. I say like, hey, like this is the optimal way to do this because of A, B, and C. But on certain,
is it almost like this is the problem? We all agree on this. Like this is an agreeable problem.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes,
and
yes.
So it's a very engineering-minded approach that I bring to the table that I think sets me apart from politicians in the fact that a lot of the book is up front is like, okay, like there's a chapter on like the debt, and here's why it's a major problem. And everyone in America can agree that being $33 trillion in debt is not a very good thing to be in.
Yeah, I mean.
But I quantify that, and then I say, like, here's the projections of where we're going. And these are all, like, there's over 100 sources that I cite in the book, and it's all from government think tanks, institutions, like the Congressional Budget Office. So there's people much smarter than me putting out these graphs. And then I use all that, I bring it all together and say, okay, now that we have a thorough understanding of the problem, how do we go and fix it? And then I lay out the solutions and I say, you either fix it this way and you make that group of voters mad, you fix it this way and you make that group of voters mad, or you fix it this way and, maybe everyone's mad, but there's less downstream consequences. And if it's not making a particular demographic mad, it's okay, well, if you do this, this is going to be a problem in 5 to 10 years. If you fix it this way, this is going to be a problem. So I think through all of that and understand the trade-offs. And that's what I feel our politicians are lacking, because they go in there, they get people to get in their pockets and say, I want you to vote this way. And then all they do is pound the table and say, I want to do it this way. Okay. Whereas I would be the politician that's up there saying, yeah, there's some really difficult conversations we need to have right now. We're kicking the can down the road on a lot of major issues that are affecting millions of Americans, and no one wants to touch it because it's not popular to get reelected. I don't care about reelection. I'm not in office. And even when I do get up there, I don't want to be a rich man north of Richmond, right? I'm running on term limits, insider trading restrictions. I want accountability up there.
Come on, insider trading?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah, it's disgusting what they're doing up there.
Dude, I need to know the secrets.
Yeah.
You got to get in.
No, I don't want to know those secrets because I don't want to go to jail.
Can you imagine like options trading if you knew what was going on? Like if Microsoft was like, yo, okay, we're going to dump a lot of stock off. Like just throw a good put in there.
Well, and this is the thing is
infinite money.
This wasn't really a big problem back then, so I don't actually touch on it in the book. But it is a big part of my platform right now, in the fact that I think there's a lot of things going on in DC right now that are very disingenuous. I think there are specific things like term limits. So I'm a very, very big proponent of term limits. But I think it's very disingenuous the way it's being approached right now, because I think what they're doing is they're saying, well, we all want term limits and here's what we believe in. I don't think it's realistic they're going to get it passed. And I think they know that. I think they're trying to put it on paper and look like, oh, look, we care so much and we want term limits for this. And it's like, okay, yeah, but I don't agree why you're doing it. And you know that they're not going to approve that. You know that they're not going to vote it. So you can put it on the floor and say, look at me, I tried. And then when it gets shot down, you go, oh, well, woe is me. I'm sorry, guys. I tried to fight for you.
Well, I don't know a ton about much, but I can't imagine those, because if they voted on term limits, wouldn't they be voting themselves out technically?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
and this is
probably a pretty hard one to get past, right?
But this is why I have a very specific solution, and I'm not going to get into it on this podcast. But basically, if you put term limits, you say everyone can only get one term limit, right? Let's just say that for senators, for House of Representatives, no matter what it is, you say, okay, well, like no one's going to vote for one term. Okay, let's make it 2 terms. Now you increase the likelihood that they vote for it. So you can almost imagine it as like a distribution, right? So if you say, well, let's make it 50 years. Well, everyone's going to vote for 50 years because they're not going to be there for 50 years. Okay, great. So we have 100% of people who will vote for it at 50. Now, we, the people, don't win because they'll still be in there for 40 years. Okay, let's make it 40. Okay, now 98% of them will vote for it. Great. Let's make it 30 years. So as you start to bring it down, you're decreasing the likelihood that people will vote for it. So there's a sweet spot there where we, the American people, win, and we say, okay, you can't spend your entire life up here. There has to be a medium where it's not 1 or 2 terms where it's not likely you're going to vote for it, but it's not a career of 40 years. So there has to be a spot in the middle, and that's where I bring to the table of like, look, you have to increase the likelihood that they will actually vote for it and approve it, while also still constraining their power to a reasonable level. And the way I approach it is you do that and you say, look, you have to get something on the books to enforce. After that, if you want to tighten it, then you tighten it. But you can't go in there as like, oh, it's only 1 or 2 terms, and then be bewildered when they don't vote to support it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the trade-off that they don't talk about. And I feel the same way with insider trading restrictions.
Yeah.
They want to ban individual stocks. Okay, well then what's to stop you, like what they did in 2020 when they knew that they were going to shut down the economy? What's to stop you from shorting the S&P 500 all the way down? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, woe is me. I can't buy Microsoft and I can't buy Tesla stock. But okay, but you can still trade and short those industries as you know you're going to make policy decisions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, it's like the guys on the Senate Armed Service Committee. Like if you know that you're about to, let's say, I don't know, go to war with a country, or you know that you're about to increase the defense budget, you don't have to buy Lockheed stock or Raytheon stock. You can just buy the index in the ETF for the basket of stocks, and you can still insider trade that way.
Yeah.
And so there's holes in their game, and that's why I feel like they're disingenuous. So I have a plan to eliminate all of that, and I believe that you should have to report it the same day you do it. So if I Brian, if I get to Congress and I buy Tesla stock, and then the next day you find out, well, yeah, he bought it because there was a meeting that morning where they said they were gonna buy 100,000 electric vehicles for the government. Well, then great. There's the evidence of the correlation of very suspicious timing. Refer that to the SEC and get that guy out of there. That's the only way you really root out corruption, is you need to increase the visibility of it. So you either say, fine, you can't trade individual stocks, you can't trade index funds, or if you are going to let them do that because you know they're not going to vote for it, then fine. I want you to tell me the day you do it and then the day you sell it. And then I want to see the patterns, because let's face it, they're stupid. The stupid people will literally root out their own corruption through that way.
Yeah.
And then you let the people see it, and then they get voted out. And then you let the free market dictate whether or not those people stay in power.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So we only have a few minutes left because I know we got to piece out of here soon. What does it look like getting, like, you're setting up your run for Congress? Like, how do you even start that? Like,
so it's a very long road. It's very simple to do.
is there like a website to go to
Yeah.
and like, I want to run for this?
Yeah, it's actually very easy. You go online, you go to the FEC, you fill out 2 forms, you submit it, and you say, hey, I want my name included on the ballot.
And
So-
that's it?
That's it. So like running itself, announcing that you're running is actually pretty simple. The hardest part, the biggest headache for me was actually setting up a campaign bank account. That was really difficult for some reason. It doesn't really need to be.
Huh, interesting.
But that's so that you can get fundraising in there. And there's all kinds of tax implications of making sure that everything you're doing is traceable. But then, so announcing that you want to run for Congress is pretty easy. How do you actually run? How do you fundraise? I have to get 5,818 petitions signed between now and the end of March 2024. So
That say, like, people that think you're a valid...
I have a little piece of paper, and I just have to get registered voters to sign it and say, I want Brian Jones's name included on the ballot. So, okay, that sounds pretty easy. But then you break it down over the next 7 months. I have to do that. I have to get 800 plus signed every month. And it's just me. I work a full-time job. I try to go to the gym. And then I basically have every other Friday I'm off, like today, or I have the weekends. So on the weekends, I'm out and about trying to hit people up and say, hey, will you sign this petition? And it's a hustle. It's a grind. And it's...
Really? And then that's just really the start, just to get your name on the ballot.
Yeah. So basically what could happen is I could go through all of this. I could get to the end of March next year. And if I only have 5,700, they'll go, okay, like you didn't qualify. Now, if you don't qualify, you can just pay the $10,000 fee. It's 10,000 and some change. There's like a 3% fee, a 2% fee, a 1% fee. It all adds up to roughly 6% of the salary you're going for. So you could absolutely buy your way onto the ballot, but I don't want to do it that way. I don't want to throw money at it if I can't get the support.
Yeah, if you don't buy your way there, then at least you know you have 5,616 people already supporting you, right?
Yeah.
Like looking out for your name on the ballot.
Yeah, but that's the grind right now is I just want to get that portion over because I actually really love talking to people. I love connecting with people, talking about politics, talking about the style of leadership that I want to see in Congress versus what's up there now. And I have great conversations, and it really makes me happy to have these good connections with people. I want to get to a point where I can just have those conversations without having to sell them on anything and be like, oh, thank you. Like, it feels so transactional, and sometimes it feels like a little fake to be like, hey, like maybe you think I'm only being nice to you because I want you to sign this petition. But the reality is, like, I just want to get those done so that I can talk to people and just be like, yeah, we agree. Follow me on social media. Follow my campaign. If you can donate, great. That helps grassroots candidates like me, because the guy I'm going up against in Congress, he already has almost $500,000 in his campaign account. So he doesn't need to campaign. He just has the money to have everyone else campaign for him, or he can just pay for advertising. Whereas outside candidates like me, it's an entire uphill battle just to get there, just to fight for your country and say that I just want to do something that I feel is the right thing to do.
Well, man, that is awesome. Good work, and I hope best for you. Hopefully this podcast gets you some views and gets you some supporters.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Fitness side will be supporting you all the way.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
If you want to have me on again some other time,
Yeah,
man,
no, we can talk more about fitness, more about the book. I mean, whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. Whenever you want to have me on, I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Good work.